Hello and welcome to this new video. In the previous video, we configured a second Steam player using the virtualization solution, so we can continue our work on adapting the project for crossplay on Steam. In this video, we will continue working on the project to fix the crossplay limitations and adapt the project to verify the crossplay features. The first thing to do is to ignore the logout task callback since EOS returns a false callback. So, go to the Player Info widget to change the implementation. What we want to do after the logout task call is initialize a timer that checks the player's connection status. Once the player is disconnected, we will redirect him to the login page. Normally, the player should be automatically redirected to the login page once their connection status changes to not logged in. However, as we have seen, this is not the case because this delegate does not trigger on EOS Plus with Steam. However, this delegate does trigger, but only when the player logs in. We also need to move the calls to the Save Game event and load stats and leaderboards name because they are called once the player is logged in. In this case, they are not called because the delegate does not trigger. Add a function to check the player's connection status. We should only redirect the client to the login page if they are not connected and if they are in a level other than the startup level. If the condition is true, we open the startup level. Add a timer by function name to call this function continuously. We must not proceed with this check in the case of a dedicated server, as the dedicated server does not require an authenticated user. Launch the game to verify the implementation. If you click on Logout, you will be redirected to the startup level. You need to enter the credentials. We now want to verify the save and load of the remote game. As a reminder, we are using the player data service to do this. Delete the save files locally. Since the delegate doesn't trigger, we will call this event once the player is connected, so in the login widget after his connection. I want to add a function in the interface that calls this event. Add a second function that is used to call the custom event for stats and achievements names. Implement the functions by connecting the custom events. call these two functions in the login widget. Run a test to verify the implementation. The save game was created and not loaded from the cloud because for Steam, you need to configure Steam Cloud in your Steamworks dashboard. I don't want to do this in this video, but you can find it in the Steam section in the upcoming videos. I don't want to explain things twice. We also notice that the stats and achievement names were not loaded from title data, simply because Steam doesn't have a title data service. However, this is not a problem because Steam doesn't support the stat interface of Unreal Engine either. Steam has its own way of managing player progression. In the next section, you will see how to use the Easy OSS plugin with Steam player progression. The plugin implements Steam's web API to allow you to interact with Steam player progression, which doesn't require the game client to have stat names and leaderboards. Similarly, I don't want to integrate Steam player progression in this section to avoid explaining things twice. Anyway, the mirroring works fine. You'll see later that the game will also update the jump stat. For now, we can't test it since we can't create a lobby session. We can clearly see in the logs that the Steam plugin does not implement the title data interface. You can therefore remove the title data implementation to use the solution provided by the Easy OSS plugin. To enable the load of save games from the cloud, you can activate this service in your Steamworks. This will be done in the next section. In the Player Info widget, the Set Friend Invite Policy feature causes a crash in the editor. Since this feature is not yet complete on the Unreal Engine side, it has been included in the plugin for future Unreal Engine releases. So, it should not surprise you if your editor crashes. You can remove it from your project. You may have noticed that the custom presence message was not displayed in the friends list, which is normal because Steam uses localized presence. Therefore, updating the Steam player's presence requires certain considerations. We'll see how to do it in the next section. Also, the delegate on player presence received doesn't trigger on Steam, which is why a friend status is not yet displayed. Temporarily, you can use the presence provided by the friend interface in the OSS friend structure. Adding a friend via his ID is not supported with the Steam plugin, so you can remove it from the widget. In the external UI widget, we will add access to the external UIs supported by Steam. As we saw with EOS, the external friend UI is currently supported, while Steam supports several external UIs: the external friends UI, external web UI, external achievements UI, invite to session UI, and the external profile UI. You can add the corresponding buttons, just like we did for the external friends UI. Then you call each external UI according to button clicked. To avoid doing things twice, it will be implemented in the next section. That's all for this video. See you in the next one.